favor say aye. Aye. All right, on to tonight's consent agenda. Anybody have any questions?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Dan,
I second that.
second by Jan. Any last minute discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved, and we'll move on to the 2021 street improvement project. You're up, Joe.
Well, I just want to thank Mr. Becker and the mayor and Mr. Bushway for coming out to see my problem. The other two didn't show up. But I don't quite agree with giving up 15 feet, 8 inches, and I've only got 20 feet left. Now, if I gotta pay $13,000 and $13,600, then you take that chunk away from me, I don't approve of that. Now, you said you're gonna have it for a discussion tonight, and I would like to listen to the discussion.
Sure. All right, so then I will go ahead and kick off tonight's discussion on that. I did go over and over to Joe's property and did take a look at it. And he was kind enough to have some measurements on his property, like what the proposed was, what he thought was fair. I'll be honest with you, that does really cut short his driveway. Until I actually was able to go down there and take a look at it. I didn't realize how much, how close his house was actually gonna be to the street, so that's why I'd asked, Joe had requested that some of us take a look at it. He did ask to have a discussion on tonight's. I did tell him that we might need to have some takeaway items. Kent, our engineer, is here tonight too to help with the discussion. But I fully anticipate that there'll probably be some takeaways for Kent to look at and a decision later on if they're, on what can. All right, I will open it up to the floor for the rest of the council.
I didn't stop and see Joe about this here, but I walked past here a few times and it is cutting into his driveway a lot. I mean, something we definitely have to discuss and see what we can come up with and make it a little better.
So the question I have, you have to refresh my memory, Joe. Where you had the two marks,
Yes,
the one that was closest to your house, was that the road right away?
that was 20 feet, that's on the garage, that's where they wanna.
And then the second mark lower was where you were asking you to get to.
5 feet more is all I asked for, 5 feet, not 15 feet, 8 inches.
Okay.
I want 5 feet. That would give my son enough room to get around his truck in his wheelchair without going onto the road. Now, to me, that's safety.
Jan, Troy, any comments, questions?
I looked at it, it's just seeing what Kent was gonna come up with. If you had any ideas.
And I went by your property today.
Pardon me?
I went past your property today. You were standing on
You
the,
didn't stop at all.
no, I didn't stop. I was delivering Meals on Wheels, but I know what it looks like.
Can you imagine taking just about half of that off? Take 15 feet, 8 inches off, and I got 20 feet left. That's tight against the brick.
So, Kent, a question for you. I know we've been trying to center all the roads back in the center of the right-of-way.
Correct.
And that is already at a shorter width because of how close the houses are already existing to the road. What's the width through there? Is that the full 36?
The street is 36 feet from back to curb to back to curb.
Okay.
That's what's planned, yes.
And remind me, is that with that puts parking on both sides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the bare minimums where you have an 11-foot driving lane, like a 7-foot parking lane. If you got a wheel up on the curb, you can get parking and driving lanes on both sides.
And how wide is usually the parking?
If you're on a state aid guidelines, would be an 8-foot parking lane and a 12-foot lane. You're allowed to squeeze those down with lower traffic volumes, if that's present, which in this case, that obviously, if that is the case, there's much lower traffic volumes. And it's not a state aid road, but it's a good guideline for street widths.
So right now you have the lane of traffic at 12 feet,
11,
11 feet, and
Yep.
then the parking lane is 8 feet,
7,
7. That's why I'm asking these questions.
yep.
No, he said the other. Did you say that?
That's for state.
The state guidelines,
I don't think he actually said when that road was set at.
okay,
You just said it was 36 from back to back. You didn't
Yep.
say- So I was trying to figure out what
okay,
the actual driving lane is, what the parking lane is.
yep,
So the parking lane is 7 feet.
yep. There's surmountable curb,
Right. And that's
so you'd have one wheel up on the curb to occupy that 7-foot wide parking lane.
That whole end of town is pretty narrow streets and stuff. And are we at a point where we should look at only have parking on one side? So we're not taking so much of the, using up so much of the easement and taking so much of the property, like on Joe's part. We have parking on one side of the street there, we could save that 5 to 7 feet and help him out. Do we need, this is something to talk about, do we need parking on both sides of the street?
Well, that was gonna be one of my questions was, could it be a one-lane parking street?
Right. You still have 11-foot driving lanes and parking on one side. And yes, maybe the street wouldn't be centered in the right of way, but it would not take up so much of the driveways and stuff. The houses are close in there. So,
Yeah, and when I was visiting with Joe, his neighbor just to the south, is, granted, their driveway is a little bit longer because goes past by, a little bit past the house, but, I mean, just that whole row of houses is just right smack dab right up to the road right away. So, yeah,
Ken, on your part, do you think we're looking at that in a good way, by having parking on one side? Are we hurting ourselves by doing that, or what's your thought?
It's mostly residential, I mean, it is residential there, so there's probably not a high demand for parking in that neighborhood unless you're getting spillover from the school. I'm not sure where that would go, if it would cross the county road.
I guess for me, the only spillover I would think would be in that area would be either the Church of God or Assumption Church.
Or maybe in Valley Days at best.
Or Valley Days
Possibility
at
too.
best,
Yep.
yeah. But even there, I mean, even before, I mean, if you go with the existing road configuration, you're still gaining parking regardless.
Yeah, I would say so.
So are we talking single parking lanes just on that one street, or are we talking about the entire
I
project?
would say just that one, we do that one street.
We'd almost have to do the entire street, but we wouldn't wanna just do one block. Would we? It would look kinda goofy if you did one block and not the entire street.
Especially coming off of a county road like that,
I think you almost have to go all the way on Maple there.
yeah.
Yeah, that could be done. I think you're right, Dan, that you'd probably want to do the whole length of the road.
Yeah, 'cause like
Yeah.
right now, even with the existing road configuration, it's kind of goofy through there already.
Yeah, the pavement edges
And it's,
are all over the place.
yeah.
What do you need from Kent?
Just what I was just thinking of, what would be, what would be the next steps? Would the next steps for you would be to see the draft up the feasibility of if we, if we went down to a single parking lane configuration,
Mm-hmm,
and how best that would fit, how best that would fit in the road right away. Trying to keep in mind, try to get that 5 feet that Joe is asking for. Because I think even the houses to the south there would benefit from having a little bit extra.
Sure.
So they're thinking of the house directly to the north of Joe there. He's losing a huge chunk of that
Yeah.
west side.
Is it just taking off, the way the design is now, it goes like that,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
kind-
you just
it's
take the
just-
7 feet off
it
of
just
the one
sits-
side.
Crooked.
yeah, the
Is that
existing
right?
road is crooked in the right of way.
Yeah.
The edges are kind of, they vary from how far they are to the right of way line. So if we have a 59-foot right of way, which is what we have there, and we center the road, the proposed road is currently 36 feet wide. We take off a parking lane, that makes it 31. So that's 7 feet that now is boulevard, right? If we recenter that in the right of way, then it's 3.5 feet more each side that now becomes turf. So you're suggesting perhaps even
Maybe
scoot it a little bit to the west?
Scoot it a little bit to the west.
Okay.
To get them at 5 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be done. It would not be a dramatic change from what we've got put out there already. As far as street design, we would have to go through and, sort of reissue the plan sheets and stuff, because it would be a big enough change that a contractor would need
They would need to know.
new plans.
Now, since we're already submitting for bids for this,
Mhm.
how would we make that if we move forward with the adjustment, how would we get that to any of the potential bidders that we're gonna be doing a change?
We're cutting it, bid letting is next Wednesday. We'd be cutting it awful close to try to issue anything. I would bid it just like it is today.
Knowing
Yeah.
that we're gonna have to do it,
Yeah.
would that fall under like a change order then?
Yeah, we could process it. If this is something that the city proceeds with, narrowing the streets up, we would process a change order,
Okay.
basically reducing those street quantities and issuing revised plans to reflect that change.
Okay.
And we would have time to do that. Street construction is always, of course, the last part of the job, so we would have time to work through any kinks or details that we need to.
Now, is there any utilities that are being relocated in that area that we'd have to be,
Yes, this really shouldn't affect their plan anyways.
okay,
When they relocate, they try to be near the right-of-way line.
near the right-of-way line anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. So that could go on as is anyway,
Yes.
okay.
If we make that change on Maple, should we be looking at any other street?
I think that was the only street that we were trying,
They were taking up so much of the driveways and stuff?
that we were trying, I think we were trying to do the full 36 through that, in that direction. I know the cross, going east to west, that we were already narrowed as much as we could go already.
Correct. Rose and Brooks have 33 feet of right-of-way. That's how they were platted. So the proposed street there is 28 feet wide from back of curb to back of curb.
Yeah, so we're already,
That's 2.5 feet of boulevard.
yeah, so we're already at the absolute minimum anyway, or, yeah.
Max, yeah.
Max,
We
minimum.
really can't get a wider street in there.
Adjustments.
Yeah.
wanna go ahead and work that up and then send it to Cindy to send out to the council?
Sure.
What that would look like, and then, we'll, on our workshop, we'll look at that and make a decision
So we're thinking narrow the street by 7 feet, eliminate a parking lane,
Eliminate a parking lane,
and
and shift,
Recenter it.
well, not,
Well,
shift it
Yeah.
off to the one side, so. Would that help you out there, Joe, then?
5 feet would help us a lot.
Okay.
I don't think it's asking too much if I give you.
And that's what we're talking about, Joe, we're talking about
We need a motion for
eliminating that parking on your side of the street to give you that 5 feet. So then there'd only be parking, on-street parking on the opposite side of that street.
That my driveway would be 5 feet longer, correct?
Yeah, you just won't have a parking lane on your side of the street, it'd be on the opposite side of the street. Okay.
That's correct. Because when my family comes home, they go to the parking lot. Some of them go along the road, some go to the Church of God camping ground, or parking lot.
Okay,
And I can have the rest go down there too.
okay.
I have permission from them that, like Easter, we had, I don't know, 37 people over and a lot of cars. But a lot of them were down in Church of God parking lot.
Sure. All right, so in order for Kent to move forward with that material change, we need to have a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we, have Kent drop, removing that, east parking lane and re-signing the road as much as he can, but still give Joe that 5 feet.
All right, I have a motion by Pat,
I second that.
and a second by Dan. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. So,
Thank you very much.
you are welcome, Joe. Thanks for coming in. We'll go on to, let's see, we'll go on to 2020 audit report. So this will be Caroline from Bergen KDB. Can you hear?
Good evening, is everyone able to hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect, perfect. The audit director involved in the audit for fiscal year 2020. For you, so I'd like to take just a few minutes of your time and go through the results of that audit. So to start things off, the main reason that you asked us to work with you is to provide an opinion on the financial statements. Also housed within the opinion, before we get to that part, is both management's responsibility as well as our responsibility. And management's responsibility is for the preparation and fair presentation of those financial statements in accordance with the regulatory basis of accounting. What that's getting at is that the numbers that are included in the financial statements are to be determined by management, and then our job is to then provide that opinion on the financial statements. So kind of drawing a line in the sand, we aren't able to determine the numbers and give the opinion. So the opinion that we are providing, this isn't a change from what you've received in the past, so it's kind of multi-level because of the additional funding that you have for water and sewer. But from the full city perspective, we are issuing what's called an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. So that's the full city financial statements. And then there's a separate document issued on the accrual basis of accounting for your enterprise funds, and so then that's on the GAAP perspective, and we're issuing an unmodified opinion on those as well. And basically, the unmodified opinion, what that means is we believe the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects as of December 31st. In addition to just looking at the numbers, we also considered internal controls as we went throughout our process by conducting an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. There were two internal control items that we noted this year. They are items that you would have seen from us in prior years, very, very common for cities of your size, and that is lack of segregation of accounting duties and then just the mechanics of getting the separate document reported on that accrual basis of accounting. So just the adjustments that are necessary for that. Again, similar to what you would have seen in the past. One final component of the audit is in regards to Minnesota legal compliance. The Office of the State Auditor puts together 7 categories of checklists filled with state statutes that we are asked to ask a number of questions of management regarding that. There were no findings in regards to any of those questions. And moving on to the financial analysis piece, we have a few slides looking at the general fund. This first slide is more high level, looking at total receipts, total disbursements, and we'll dig into those just a bit in the upcoming slides. But focusing on the cash fund balance. In total, cash fund balance did decrease about $85,000 for the year. That's about 7.7% compared to the previous year. But that ending cash fund balance of just over $1 million does represent approximately 12 months of disbursements based on the 2020 spending levels. So if we compare that to the fund balance policy that you laid out for yourselves, that policy indicates that you would strive to maintain a minimum of 6 months of operating disbursements. So you are you are in compliance with the policy you have established for yourselves. The next slide digs a bit deeper into the receipts that we looked at in total on the previous page. In total, receipts increased about $82,000 for the year, about 7.6%. A little bit of fluctuation between the categories that you see presented there, with the largest change happening in the intergovernmental revenue. And that is a result of an increase in 2 things: local government aid, as well as the receipt of the CARES Act funding. In addition to that, charges for services were down a bit. There was a decrease in the budgeted cost for fire protection as it relates to township fire protection services. And then other revenue decreased. There was a decrease in the investment income there. So we have a similar presentation then for disbursements in the general fund on this slide. And in total, general fund disbursements increased about $88,000. Again, applying a percentage to that, that's about 9.4. A couple different things going on again if we look at things by department. General government increased with an increase in some legal fees, as well as the costs related to the second half remodel of City Hall. And then public safety, as well as the other category, both increased as a result of the spending of those coronavirus relief funds that were received. So those categories, or those departments, had more of the spending related to that. And public works was actually down a bit. There was less snow and ice removal costs in 2020 compared to the previous year. On this slide, we have a budget to actual perspective that we look at here. So the very first column, the original budget, that's what was originally approved, called for a fairly break-even year, fund balance increasing about $20,000. Move over to the second column, after some revisions to both receipts and disbursements. The ending, all the way down to the bottom, the ending impact on fund balance was anticipated to be an increase of $126,000. Third column are the actual results. Again, all the way to the bottom, showing the fund balance decreasing by about $85,000. We're going to look at some of the explanations or the reasons for that difference. If we go to about a third of the way from the top there, you see total receipts line. Following that all the way over to the far right column, you see the variance there, over budget, nearly $30,000. Again, if we apply a percentage to that, that's about 2.6%. The majority of that was in other income coming in over budget, just investment income coming in higher than anticipated. And it's pretty common for that to be a conservative approach as far as the budget goes for investment income. Well, similar, if we follow the chart down about 2/3, now to the bottom, 2/3 there, total disbursements, and follow that all the way over to the far right. See the variance column there of about $76,000. That is about 8% variance. A number of the same explanations that we just talked about as far as the increases are part of what we're gonna talk through here as far as budget variances as well. General government being over budgeted as a result of those legal fees and the city hall remodel costs that weren't originally incorporated into that budget. And then public safety being over budget as a result of the CARES Act disbursements and a squad car upgrade. Public Works was under budget, again, not having as much snow and ice removal as was originally budgeted. And then Culture and Recreation was under budget. Here there was a decision to not hire an additional employee that was originally in the budgeted plan. So a few different things going on there, but in the result, or in the end, cash fund balance decreasing by 85,000. But still ending at 12 months of your disbursement, so still sitting at a nice balance for you. Switching gears a bit, we move to the enterprise funds. And so now these next two slides for your water and sewer fund are presented on that accrual basis of income. So if you were to look at the two documents that you have as far as financial statements, these are the numbers that come from the enterprise, the separate packet. So operating revenues increased for the water fund. There was increased usage for residents. And operating expenses were down almost 10%. So the ending activity was, operating income of about $111,000. And you see two different bars here, a maroon bar and an orange bar. One, the orange bar, that has all operating expenses in it. So that has depreciation expense included in it. We include a separate bar, the maroon, factoring out depreciation expense. This does more for a conversation piece, and you are above the line, so to say, you're positive for both. That is not always the case when we have these discussions, so it's really an avenue for discussion to look at the charges that you have, your operating revenues, to ensure that they are adequate to cover all of the operating expenses of your fund, including that depreciation expense, to help you set dollars aside for future replacement of those assets. So you are doing that, you are covering your depreciation expense 100%, which is what we see by both of these bars being above the line. Another way that we can look at the health of enterprise funds is looking at the equity position. So if we look at net position for the water fund, to start, there is a large component of it that is entitled net investment in capital assets, and it is just that. It's the dollars that you've invested in your capital assets. Those dollars would not be available for you for future operations because they're tied up in those assets. So the component that we look at would be unrestricted net position. That's really what would be available for future operations. So an analysis of that line shows that unrestricted net position increased for the water fund by about $27,000. So moving in the right direction when you're looking at things from that perspective. Cash is one other way to look at the fund to kind of see, how are we doing in cash? Cash increased as well, about $18,000, and ended the year at a nice healthy position of about $450,000. So all of those pieces are things to consider as you're looking at the health of enterprise funds. And again, this was a high usage year. We know that that can be up or down depending on water levels and rain levels and all of those things. But for this year, nice positive operations. Similar analysis here for the sewer fund, so since I gave all that background, I don't have to explain all of that detail quite so much again, but for the sewer fund, operating revenues increased about 7%, again, because of the increase in usage. And then operating expenses did increase. There was a purchase of a new generator, as well as increased sanitary sewer cleaning costs. So an increase on the expense side of things. The ending results of that activity still led to operating income, though, of $21,000, so still staying above the line. Here's where we can see a couple of years back it was below the line, so that's where that analysis comes into play, where the orange is below and the maroon is above. So then you get a little bit of a variance in the percentage of how much of that would be covered. But again, for 2020, fully covering depreciation expense when looking at these two bars. That unrestricted net position piece that I touched on earlier, as far as the equity position for the sewer fund, unrestricted net position decreased to about 24,000, and cash was down a bit as well, about 22,000, but still ended at a healthy balance, 347,000 for the year. So again, all different ways to look at or analyze those charges for services that you have in the fund. Just more food for thought. That is what I prepared to go through with you. I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone may have.
Anybody have any questions for Caroline?
No, I don't.
No, I think we're good.
They don't seem to have any questions.
No, thank you for coming, thank you for your, coming in and, well, even though it's virtually, and, going through this with us.
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate having me in this form.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you, you too.
Okay, so then that brings us up to tonight's our favorite subject of the evening, bills. Anybody have any questions on the bills? I don't recall.
There's a few on one of them,
Is there? Okay.
$82.16.
All right. All right. Anybody have any questions on tonight's bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Minus.
Minus Teal and Machine.
All right. Motion to pay the bills except for Teal and Machine.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Pat. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then I will go ahead and make a motion to pay the Teal and Machine bill.
I make a motion, or a second motion.
All right. I have a second by Jan. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Abstain.
And Dan abstains. All right, and then on to departments. So Cindy.
Was asked to be the Region 3 Director for MCFOA, and in the midst of the audit and a weak moment, I agreed to take it on. It really is probably an hour's worth of work a month. And then it's doing some presentations at the annual conference, and Region 3 is made up of all the surrounding, I think there's 35 cities that make up Region 3, so. we do
What is
trainings.
MCFOA?
The municipal clerk and finance officers, yeah. So all the clerk treasurers of the state are members. So they do ask that I actually have support of the council to do this. So if you choose not to support this, I don't know what happens.
You said it takes, what, about an hour a month?
Right.
Not really much time commitment?
Right, and right now, a lot of the cities aren't gathering together. So training opportunities, they were doing a small training every couple months years ago. Well, last year, obviously, they did a few Zoom or virtual, but so this year I anticipate maybe 2. This fall, some will be doing them. And then I asked other cities to be the whole city, so we'll probably do one and then they'll do the other.
How long is this, like a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or until you decide to resign?
It's open to, until I resign. I said I would do it for a year. I committed to, but, if it, because I didn't know either. I've not paid attention to what the director does, so I've attended the trainings because I don't want it to take a lot of time away from here. So, yeah.
Any other questions on that? Do you need a motion on that or just a verbal?
A verbal, that's all right then.
Have fun.
Yeah, enjoy. Don't forget the right.
That's right, that's right. And the water bill, you can remove that from the item, and I am gonna take 2 days, the April 15th and 16th. I've asked Sarah to go, originally when we hired her Tuesday through Friday. And with the COVID and the schools, she asked if she could do the Monday through Thursday, because that's when her kids were, and her kids were alone on Friday, so I mean, that was fine. And now they're in school all week, so she'll be working Tuesday through Friday. This one affects that, my being off Monday and Tuesday, so I'll need to close City Hall on Monday, the 15th.
15th?
Is that a Monday?
It's not a Monday.
All right.
That is Thursday, Friday.
Oh, Thursday, Friday, well
Yep.
then it will be fine.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know I'm on vacation.
Sure.
And no, we don't need to close on Fridays. That's the day I used to be not here when I had a lot of hours, so.
Anybody have any issues with that? I assume Sarah's,
Yeah.
geared up, she can,
She is, and I do have her signed up to do, training. That's a MMUA, another, municipal. And that's for finance, and that'll be in May, and it'll be a week, and they're doing it a virtual, so. And that's 8 to 5. It's a 3-year process, and they are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, so she'll be working, but she just won't be here.
okay.
Because I think it's a good move in any future plan with, where her position is. It certainly is a good training for her to go through and.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's it. And I'm thrilled on it.
Anybody got any questions for Cindy? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and go on to Ernie, who's sitting in the corner.
Yep, back where Cindy put me. You got the monthly report, if you got any questions on that. Tomorrow we're fingerprinting the kindergartners and first graders at Eden Valley and Watkins. I'm gearing up for Valley Days, starting the planning process on that, so, yeah, full steam ahead. It's gonna be a busy summer for us, the way it looks. Other than that, I don't have anything.
All right, anybody got anything for Ernie? Okay. And on to Zach.
I believe in your council packet, there was a Department of Health report in there from Kim Larson. She is filling in for John Grothe. He's due to retire soon here, so I had a different inspector or surveyor this year, so. Yeah, if you got any questions on that, let me know. Everything went good. We're due to have the tower cleaned this year. McGuire Iron does that for us. And, yeah, everything looked good there.
So with the cleaning of the water tower, what's that all entail? They flush it out or clean it
Yep,
inside?
and then they inspect it too, so should get a printout report of that, so.
Is that scheduled already for any certain time, or?
Not yet, I gotta get a hold of them, get that on the books, but, we're able to shut the tower offline and keep pressure in town, just run off pressure for that time that they're cleaning, so shouldn't affect the water use at all in town, so.
How long does that usually take?
Just a day.
Just a day, okay.
So every 2 years, that's what we do, so. Yeah,
That's not painting, is it just? That's
No.
just internal
yep,
inspections?
yep. So, and then on the project, you see our big trucks in town, they're first to come in, so they're, moving their stuff over, they're putting in new fiber in the project location area, so. Yeah, working with them on that, got all kinds of locates, making sure they don't hit anything, and, yeah, trying to get them to be in the right spot working with Kent on that, and it's going well. So they have Coleman, the stretch north on Coleman is just about done. They gotta put the wire in yet, but the drilling's all done, so. Got that, and, Fred's Park, we're planning to have that open by the first weekend in May, pending the weather. If it stays nice like this, maybe a little sooner, but that's what we're shooting for, so. Any questions?
Any questions for Zach? Sure. All right, if nothing's got, if you don't have anything for Zach, Cindy, you had something else?
It reminded me, I had a call from the the after prom committee, who would like to go out to Frederick's Park after prom, which puts them there about 11:30, so, and play games, so. I don't know that we have I'll talk to you, but it's on the 8th, I think, whatever that Saturday is. I know we have it set for a timer for lights to go off.
Yeah,
So we'll,
we have to adjust it.
right, and now is there an issue with them? We're talking probably about 100 kids is what she thought.
The only thing that comes to mind is, you know, the residents in the area, you know, cause like, or do they anticipate that's gonna get kinda loud? Are they gonna have like entertainment? Obviously they gotta entertain the kids somehow, so.
When they're gonna do games, there won't be a band, cause they just left prom,
Yeah.
so, you know, it'll be,
And for a couple hours or all night or?
well, you know, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess I'd maybe just run past the 3 or 4 residents in that area and say, hey, you know, this is going on. Or this is what they like to do. Do you have a problem with it? It affects them more than it affects us.
And maybe not word it as, word it in a fashion that we're trying to do this for the, so the kids got a place to go after prom.
You didn't like the way I worded it?
Well, yeah, put a little bit more of a PC spin on it.
Put a little more panache on it?
Put a little bit more, sweeten it up a little bit.
All right, Cindy's good at that.
Absolutely. Okay, that's it.
All right.
I think Ernie had something else, or did you not? I'm good.
No, you're good? All right. All right, and council?
How's the project going, Ken? You and Zach working it all out down there? All going fine?
Yeah, I mean, it's out for bids right now. We've got quite a few plan holders on the list right now. I don't know the number offhand, might be around 10 prime contractors that have downloaded the plans. There's, of course, suppliers and other folks that have. But, yeah, there's obviously interest in it. Bid opening is next Wednesday at 2 p.m. So.
Excellent. All right, anything else, council? Other than that, I think we've been here long enough. Next council meeting will be April 21st, here at 7 p.m. That'll be a workshop, so. With that being said, I officially adjourn the meeting.